And finally, Yhwach killed Ryu, took his power and ended what he called the humiliation his father lived in. But Yhwach's goal was not just to remove Ryu from existence, but also to erase the worlds that were created due to the division of the ancient world, a world that Yhwach considered the ideal place to live, where the concept of death didn't exist. However, Yhwach's new form made me think about several ideas and questions concerning his new power, the seal that was on Ryu, and how Yhwach would shape the world he wanted to live in and bring the Queen's Nation back to life. We will discuss all of these guys in this video. So the title The Holy Born refers to episode 32 and also chapter 626, and I think it's a fitting title for Yhwach because he truly was reborn with greater power. The 9 years ended so that his full power would return when he activated the Almighty against Ichigo. After that, he absorbed his father's power. Naturally, Ryu, who was in the cocoon, was not at full strength because many of his body parts like the heart, left arm, right arm had been removed. Yet what was left of Ryu was enough to give Yhwach unimaginable power. Power that made the elite guards tremble at its sight and strength. The only one who showed no fear or hesitation was Yhwach, whom Yhwach considered his first son and who was known as his other half. Yhwach, despite his human connection with Basri, had a bond with Yhwach that went beyond human understanding, knowing well that Yhwach alone could keep the world stable. Hence, the world no longer needed the former king. Because the big difference, guys, between the current king Yhwach and the previous one, Ryu, is that Yhwach had a clear will. He wasn't confined in a cocoon and was not sealed. He had the freedom to do as he pleased and achieve whatever he wanted. And this exposed the truth about the Shinigami and their ancestors, showing that the seal was just a means to control Ryu and deprive him of real willpower. And we could say that this matter belongs to the past, meaning that the present generation is not responsible for the mistakes of the past. It was the ancestors who committed these acts, and so it doesn't concern them. However, guys, as I mentioned in the previous video, the dangerous thing is that the Shinigamis and the nobles behind them still had the same intention, the same mentality, to repeat the same mistake by looking for someone new to replace Ryu in case of his death, and sealing him just as they did with the previous king. And this is what Kyoraku meant when he told the other Shinigamis this statement when they arrived at the royal palace, and that's why he went to the real world to give Ichigo's friends those tickets. And as you know in the novel, after Yhwach was defeated and his remains were sealed in a cocoon under the name Ryu, Kyoraku said that in the worst case scenario, Ichigo would have taken Ryu's place. And Ichibi confirmed this by saying that it would be something bad that seeing Ichigo becoming silent. So imagine, that could have been Ichigo's fate. So ultimately, guys, the core of this conflict, or what the Shinigami are trying to defend, is the system built by their ancestors. And one of the biggest defenders of this system is Ichibi Yusubi. And this leads me, guys, to think about another question. What would Yhwach's world have looked like if he succeeded in achieving his vision? And before we start, guys, talking about the answer, it's interesting to know that Yhwach seemed to have a deep connection with his castle that he called Yhwach, or meaning world, which I think was previously named Zebren. 1,000 years ago, this castle existed in the human world and was the center of the so-called Empire of Light, or Lichtreich. And when he invaded the Soul Society and was defeated, it seems he somehow recreated it within the shadows of the City, and this place became known as the Wanderreich, or the Hidden Empire. And in chapter 484, the castle alone appeared, but later during the second invasion it seemed to be surrounded by a whole city of castles, and as we have seen with the main one standing out at the top. So when Yhwach moved to the royal palace where his father lived, he reshaped the castle into this huge form, making it at the top again, and the place where Ryu was located appeared in this way, which symbolized the end of Ryu's era and the beginning of Yhwach's reign. And he considered the castle the foundation of a new world, naming it Varavert, or Castle of the New World, or something like that. But the question remains, what was next? How would Yhwach build his new world? I think Yhwach knew that the day would come to an end and darkness would fall, so which will force him to sleep and become powerless. And this is why he needed the elite members and Hirschfeld to fend off anyone who might try to stop him until the day returned. And once he woke up, he would take Ichigo's Quincy power and use Ausweren one last time to absorb the power of the remaining generator, before descending to the Soul Society to defeat Aizen Sasuke and destroy both the Soul Society and the human world. And Yhwach nearly succeeded in this. When he woke up, he fought and defeated Ichigo, then took the powers of Hirschfeld and Girard, and was on his way to the Soul Society to complete his plan. But as you know, the intervention of the Ishida family changed everything. That's why I think Yhwach wanted to reverse the cycle of life that was in the ancient world. If we go back, we see that the problems began with the Hollows. They start eating people, I mean humans, and it could have led to the rise of a giant menace that would stop the world and make chaos. So that's why Ryu appeared and was born, who was also a Quincy, and used his destructive power to kill Hollows, which contributed also into another chaos. So the Quincy power passed down to Yhwach and then to his children and no longer fit into the new worlds, as Kane Hollows disrupted the balance. So I believe Yhwach's plan was probably to eliminate the Hollows entirely and rebuild the Quincy race in the world he called the True World. He previously mentioned wanting to revive the Quincy nation, and many Quincy souls returned to him. So it's possible that after destroying the worlds and creating a new one, its center would be that castle. There might be a new races, but the Quincy's would be the primary race, I think. Because guys, one of the mysteries surrounding Yhwach and the Quincy's is how he created them in the first place. If we consider Yhwach to be Adam of the Quincy's, then who would be the Eve? Or perhaps it wasn't like that at all. Maybe Yhwach used his blood to transform a group of people into Quincy's, and these first men and women were the ones who established the Quincy race. This is why I believe it's important, very important, to understand exactly how the Quincy's came into existence and when that happened, whether it was 1200 years ago or maybe before that, because understanding how Yhwach originally created the Quincy's could provide insight into how he might revive them in his new world. I'm not suggesting the exact same Quincy's would return, but rather new people, but would still be Quincy's. Indeed guys, what do you think about what I have said right now about the Quincy's, about how they came, and also about the new world of Yhwach that he wanted to create, if his plan was succeeded? Tell me guys your opinions in the comments and see you guys in my next video.